Okay, so we've started doing some derivations where you start with some initial premises that we numbered and then you try to derive a conclusion using just the inference rules that we have. We're going to spend a lot of time doing that and getting better at doing more and more complicated and advanced derivations. I want to take a step back for a minute from like the actual rules and learning those rules to talk about strategies for how to get good at doing derivations and some of the inference rules. I brought out some extra copy. If you have another copy, it would be great to look at those. I want to make sure that everyone can see those inference rules.
Should you find they should have.
And you'll notice that all the rules are with lowercase letters. And sometimes we've seen lowercase letters and sometimes uppercase letters. I can't remember if I told you the difference between those things already. But a lowercase letter is going to be like a variable. So it's just like in a regular math class, you use x, y, or z as variables, and like 0, 1, 2 as regular numbers. And in logic, the way we mark that difference is that lowercase letters, usually starting with P, Q, and R, are the sort of most common ones, are what we use as variables. And uppercase letters usually start with like A, B, and C, are going to be particular sentences. When you're doing, say, algebra, you're going to look at which number is, say, identical to which variable. So you're going to maybe like solve an equation for a variable and figure out what it is. There's something similar that's going to go on in logic where we're going to have sentences, particular sentences using the uppercase letters that are going to fit certain patterns represented by the lowercase letters. And the reason that that's important is that the inference rules are all phrased in terms of the variables, in terms of the patterns. So you're going to have to figure out when you have a sentence that fits one of those patterns so that you're allowed to use those rules. That will make more sense as we get more used to doing derivations. Exercise 40 is all about recognizing which pattern, which form a particular sentence has. So in exercise 40, which you should look at now, we're given a bunch of sentences and then told to figure out which sentence forms the sentences on the left are instances of. Let me erase some stuff and then we'll work through some of those together. First, we've got A, horseshoe, not B. If A, then not B.
Oh, you got me.
And we want to figure out which forms does that sentence fit. So let's go through them one at a time. The first one is not P. Is it an instance of that form or not, Laura? How do you know? It's not an instance of this form. So this means
because like the B has a not.
Yes, it's because the negation is not in the right place. So not P means that you're going to have a sentence that's negated. So there's going to be a negation out front of the whole thing. So to get a sentence of the form not P, we'd have to like say put all of this and put a negation in front of it. What this is saying is that we've got a sentence with a negation in front of the whole thing. And we don't have this here in the original sentence. So it's not an instance of the form not P.
5.
How about number 2?
No.
So Nick says it's not an instance of the form 2. P horseshoe Q. Why do you think it's not an instance of that
The
form?
Q isn't negated.
Okay. Here's the trick though. The Q doesn't have to be negated. Q is a variable for any old sentence, and in this case Q is equal to not B. It's just like I said in algebra, where you can set a variable equal to any number. You can set this form as any sentence. So Q can be any old sentence at all. P can also be any old sentence at all.
It's also
So in this case, it is of the form P horseshoe Q, and the P is A, and the Q is not B. Yeah, Laura.
So for the variables,
Yeah.
the only time that you can tell if it's a not is if there's like a not in front of it. I mean, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but like, the only time it's for sure a not is if it's there, I guess, and then it
Okay.
can't be a positive.
So I think this is. I think I'm answering the question you're trying to get at.
Yeah.
So to tell me if I'm missing the point. So when you're looking at the form, what it's telling you is that there's going to be some sentence with a negation in front of it. So the P can be any old sentence at all. It could be something massive and complicated, or just a single letter.
But it would have a not.
It has to have a not in front of it.
But the other ones, it can have a not. It's just like.
That's right. There could be a bunch of negations inside P. That would be fine. There could be a whole bunch of other stuff going on inside P. That doesn't matter. And then, for the second form, all it's telling us is you've got one sentence, conditional, another sentence. P can be anything you want. Q can be anything you want. Jake.
Why would that be 4? I'm just wondering.
Um,
Am I doing this thing?
So
I mean, we're not there yet.
it can be, this sentence will fit a number of forms. It's actually, there's not just going to be one right answer. There's going to be more than one right answer.
So we write the number that goes with it on the line.
That's right. So on your worksheet, on the line, write the number that goes with it. So 2 goes with the first one. So then how about 3?
yeah.
3 is Q,
Big
horseshoe R. So Nick, you're saying it is an instance of form 3. Why?
Because Q and R can be any old variable you want them to be.
That's right. So what's Q in this case?
A.
A. And what's R?
B.
B. Good. That's right. There's actually not really any difference between 2 and 3. They're both conditionals, and they have different variables, but it's the same as if you were doing something in algebra. If there's a problem with X and a different problem with Y, if it's the exact same thing with just X and Y switches, the answers are going to be the same.
So likewise, wouldn't 4 and 5 also fit that because the negation doesn't matter because it's representing anything?
Okay, let's get to 4 and 5 then. Okay, so is it of the form 4, not, if not P, then Q?
No,
Okay, why not?
because there's a not. You can't be a variable. That
But what if P represents not A?
So Nick says, what if P is not
But
A?
it's
But there
A,
is not
it's
not
A,
A.
not A.
Then we'd need this to be not A, or, yeah, not A, for that to
So
work.
that's be not A.
But if, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just P by itself represents not A, and then the not in front just cancels out the not.
But
So-
but it's not A. You know?
This,
It's not.
Okay.
this
Not
is
A.
of that form, but this is not. So these two things are equivalent, but they don't fit all the same forms, because this is a negated thing and this is not a negated thing. So it is not an instance of form 4 because form 4 is a conditional with a negated antecedent. And this is not a conditional with a negated antecedent because A does not have a negation in front of it. So it's not an instance of form 4. How about form 5? Maeda. do you think it's an instance of form 5 or not? Is this? Yeah, it is, right? How do you know?
Because you can just put anything in for the variables.
Yeah. So what's P?
A.
A, and what's Q? B. Good. I mean, I think this one, it looks obviously right? That because you've got something at the beginning, conditional negation, something at the end, right? Fits the same pattern. Good. This is also an instance of form 5. Okay, how about 6? Not P horseshoe Q. Fair. Will it help us with this one? Is
County.
so we're looking at form 6. It's a negated conditional, so not if P then Q. Is this of that form, of form 6? Does it fit that pattern?
This one.
I think it's the wrong.
No, you're right. How do you know? It doesn't look at all similar. The way for sure to tell is that, this one is a conditional that's got a negation out front of it, right? I mean, this one is a conditional, but it doesn't have a negation in front of it. It has a negation in the consequent. So not a form 6. Yeah.
What is the consequent again?
The consequent is what comes after the arrow or the horseshoe. It's the second half of the conditional.
Did you say earlier that both A and not B were conditionals?
So in this statement, the conditional is the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
A is part of the conditional. It's the first half. It's the antecedent.
Okay.
Not B is the other part of the conditional, the second half, the consequent.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to write down
It's not going to be
form
6.
7, 8, 9, and 10. Lydia, have a look at 7 through 10 on your sheet while I'm writing it down. Do you think any of those are going to be that? Does A horseshoe not B fit any of those patterns?
No.
How do you know?
It's, they don't look alike.
Yeah, they've got to have, for like form 7, you have to have a couple different sentences in there. Maeda.
There's too many variables.
Yeah. So like, so the 7 is a conditional, which that is too. But the consequent of the conditional has to be a conditional too. And the consequent of that conditional is not a conditional. It's just a negated B. Okay, let me just write the rest of these down, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the right answer for that first blank is to write 2, 3, 5.
There are so many things.
There are a lot of things. It'll start to go faster once we start to get the hang of it.
And once they're all written down.
And once they're all written down, it'll make it easier.
Do you need me to help you write them all down faster?
I don't think so.
I think
Um,
we do need Nick.
Yes.
How can it, it is, but how can it be 2? Because it's not, because if there was no 5, I could see it being 2, but since there is one that specifically has a variable, whatever it's called, a caret, and then a non-variable, how can it also be a variable and a variable, even though, because one actually has a not in it?
It's just
One
Okay.
listing all the ones that would work for it.
So,
I know, I'm just saying.
she asked me about this first one. Why is it 2, 3, and 5? Why isn't it just 5?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm just wondering why is it
Okay.
3? Because there is one that looked exactly like it. So why is it the other ones also?
Okay. So 5 is like a very specific pattern that it fits. It fits that pattern just right. And actually, this form captures all the detail going on inside this big sentence, right?
Yeah.
But this sentence fits lots of other patterns too. 2 is one, 3 is one. Here's another one. P. This is of the pattern P, because P is a sentence, and this is a sentence.
Could you have A, like if the sentence was A caret B, but what's that called? Conditional, the error thing?
Like that?
Yeah, could that also be 5?
No, because its consequent is negated.
Okay, so it's like all somethings or somethings, but not all somethings, like all, is it suns or stars, but not all stars or suns?
Why?
Sorry, I'm not getting the point.
Like, is it,
All
so,
stars are suns, though.
all suns are stars, but not all stars are suns.
That's true.
Is that like this? Because, so,
All stars are suns. They're just not
stars
our
are
sun.
not suns.
So when you're trying to decide, is this particular sentence an instance of this form? What you have to look for is there any way to replace the variable by something to get the sentence?
No, I'm just saying with the.
And if you can do it, then it's going to work. But in this case, you can't replace these variables in 5 by something to get A horseshoe B, because you're going to be stuck with a negation that's not there.
But why can you replace it if it has a negation with not when it does not?
So, maybe here's a way to put it. You can replace a variable by something negated, but you can't just like delete a variable or a negation from one of
all
them.
suns or stars are not suns, so you can't
I see,
have a
yeah.
variable, but you cannot take away negations.
That's right. If there's a negation in the
you can
form,
add
you
it.
can't take it out.
Okay.
That's right. Okay. All right. Let's go through with this next one. If not A, then B. What was that for? You wanted to start us off?
You did.
Start us off with the first one. So this is our particular sentence, and this is our first form. So our form is not P. Is this sentence of that form? Are you thinking because it's got this part here?
Well,
It's not going to work. Does anybody else know why? Why is this not going to be that form?
It's not the entire sentence.
Oh yeah, because
There's
it
a
doesn't have the
conditional
like
in
the
the
little
thing.
the backwards C.
It's not.
Because
So-
that's just
So when it says this form, what that means is that this is the pattern
That's the
that the
entire thing.
whole sentence
Yeah.
fits.
Because the B is.
So the pattern is
so
that you've got a sentence that's negated.
B is if there's.
And even though there's a
parentheses.
negation in here,
Yes.
you don't have the whole sentence negated.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense? So what it would take to have that pattern is to have the whole sentence negated. Here's a question. If you look through the whole sheet on the left, is there any sentence that fits that first pattern that's a whole sentence negated? Is there anyone that's like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Which one?
The one
One,
The
two,
second
three,
that starts
four,
with
five,
not,
six,
and then
seven.
it has a parentheses,
Seventh.
and then A.
So there's that one in the middle that's
And the second to
it's like
last.
right next to number 9.
Yeah, and the second to last.
wait, that one's not right because it doesn't have parentheses.
It does.
Parentheses.
Oh, that
Oh wait, never mind.
Both
I
of
see it,
those
never
are
mind.
close.
is actually not right.
Both of those are close, but those are both actually conditionals.
Because they have a double parenthesis.
Pretty much
around
every
the
one is almost every one is a conditional. So I think there's actually not a single sentence on the sheet that you should write one for.
Just cross that out
'Cause
right.
even though there's negations, there's nothing where the whole sentence has a negation out front of it. Okay. Zach, how about form 2? Is this sentence an instance of that form?
Of the second form?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. How do you know?
Because the Q can represent the P can represent anything.
So why is it okay that there's negation here?
Because that's just the sentence right there, part of the sentence, or part of the conditional.
So this not A is just a sentence, and
Yeah.
this says we've got a sentence, conditional, another sentence.
Yeah.
So that's P, that's Q. So it is an instance of form 2. Okay, Zach, is it an instance of form 3?
Yeah,
How do you know?
because the variables are just different, but it's the same logic.
That's right.
But they even have to and three, they're the exact same pretty much, right?
They are the exact same. And the reason I had it was just to remind you
That it can be
that
switched.
you can switch the variables and that doesn't change what the pattern is. Okay. Maeda, what about number 4? Is this an instance of form 4?
Yeah.
If not P then Q. Yeah? How do you know?
Because there's a not for the first variable.
Good. So what's P in this case?
A.
A. So when we were looking at form 3, we said not A was going to be our P in that form. But in this case, we just A. Good. And then B is going to be our Q. Good. So yeah, it's an instance of all 3 of those forms. Or
I have a question about like the variables, if one of the variables can include like parentheses as part of their.
yes.
Okay.
So we'll get to that question in a second. I want to have a look through the rest of the forms and see if you can find any other forms that this is an instance of. Are there any other forms on the list that this sentence is an instance of? So how about form 5? Is this sentence an instance of form 5?
What?
Is this sentence an instance of form 5?
No,
How do you know?
it's not. Because it's the opposite effect.
Because we can't have.
Is it
like-
because of this negation or this negation?
That-
Which one's
Second
the
The
problem?
latter.
Good, because we need a negated consequence for it to be an instance of form 5. Lydia, how about form 6? Is this sentence an instance of form 6? Sorry, did you say? Did I miss it?
Does it look like it?
Kind of, not
Kinda.
like 6.
So, like, it's close. What would you say is sort of the difference between this sentence and line 6?
There's parentheses.
There's parentheses, okay. And I think maybe you're hesitating because you're not sure whether that matters.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
don't really know if that
Okay.
matters.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what do
I-
people think?
I-
Zach,
I
do
see
the
difference.
parentheses
So,
make a difference?
In 6, it's saying not that consequent, but in that it's saying just not A.
Yeah, so in this one, the negation only applies to the A. So the thing that they're saying is not true is A. In number 6, the negation is outside the parentheses. So the thing that's not true is the whole conditional. So those are in fact different. So it's not an instance of form 6.
That's how it's done.
And in general, parentheses like that will make a difference to what the form is because they're going to change what applies to what. It's like changing the order of operations in math. If you moved around parentheses in an algebra equation that had multiplication and addition, you would expect that might change the value of that equation. Yeah. Okay. What about forms 7 through 10? Is this going to fit any of those forms? Maeda says no. Why not? You're right. Yeah, because there's too much going on there over there. I made a mistake. I left out a horseshoe. Okay, so let's look at the next one now. So the answer to that one is 2, 3, and 4.
It's confusing because we still have numbers next to them, so we can't really do the number.
I agree. It's confusing. I think it would be better if these ones were numbered and those ones were lettered.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is.
Maybe we can just like letter these ones on our own and then we can look at
It's tricky though because you have letters in all the sentences too. Run out of symbols.
You could
to
put
use.
lowercase letters over here, and then just knock into P, Q, and R.
Nick. A legitimate question from Nick.
Yeah, right?
Yes, Nick, your legitimate question, please.
No pressure.
Okay, if there's a negation on the outside of parentheses that negates an entire conditional, and then at the tail end of that, after the conditional, there's another if then, like a horseshoe, and then like another, and then an antecedent to the, or sorry, a consequent to that initial conditional, but it's outside of the parentheses, but it's also negated separately from the parentheses. Could we say that not P is correct in that case because they're all negated?
Are you talking about this one?
How'd you get to it?
The one out there?
It's not,
Um,
it's inside.
no, that's not an example of not P because it's not an example where the whole sentence is negated. It's just where we've got each separate part of the sentence is negated, but that's not the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so is this sentence, if not A and B, then D, an instance of that first form?
No.
It's not. We
Yes, it
already
is.
went through that there's no instances of that first form. Lydia, do you want to try the second one? Is this an instance of that form, if P then Q?
No.
Okay,
Maybe.
talk through your thought process for me. Why do you think no?
I don't really know why. It's no.
Okay. Is it just because it looks way different?
Maybe.
Or something about
I
that?
think- No.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe it's yes. I think.
Maybe
I
yes.
think it's yes.
What makes you think yes? Is there something about him that's similar? Something about him similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it?
They have the backward.
They have the horseshoe in
They
them.
have, yeah. The
Yeah. They both have that.
Okay, it's called
Good.
a horseshoe.
So that is what's similar about him, and that's also the reason that this is actually an instance of that form,
Okay.
is because they have that horseshoe. The horseshoe tells us both of these sentences are conditionals, and the consequent of this conditional is D, so that's going to be our Q, it's the D there. And this whole big thing, not both A and B, is our P. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Wait, isn't this just the A and the B that are not?
Okay, good question. Is our P going to be just the A and the B or the negated A and B? Laura, what do you think? Which one should it be? Is the whole thing the P or is it just the A and B?
Which number are we looking at?
Number 2.
The whole thing?
You're right. Why?
Because the variable can be anything, so it's
That's right.
the
Um,
entire.
The P in this form is the whole antecedent. So the whole antecedent has to be the P here, and that includes the negation. What if we were, say, looking at form 4? Then what would P be? Yeah,
Would it be just the
just A and B that time, right?
yeah.
Good.
Just the A or B, not
Yeah. So, I mean, one way to think about it is the variables are standing for like parts of what the whole sentence is. So we've got a conditional, and in this form, P means the antecedent of the conditional. So P is going to be the whole antecedent. Form 4 is conditional with a negated antecedent. So P is the unnegated part of the antecedent. So our P is just going to be A and B,
Oh,
Form 4. So it is also an example of Form 4. What about Form 3?
What is C?
Is this one an example of
Yeah, we're calling
Form
that C.
3 as well?
Yes.
Because it's,
We have little letters like
It's-
on the side over here.
Steve,
What?
is the statement true if two then?
It is. 'Cause it's-
Anything that's an example of
Of two
Form
is
2 is also an example of Form 3.
That was my two then three.
Why is it that anything that's an example of one of these forms is also going to be an
Because they're
example
the
of the other
same
one?
thing but with different variables, so that is not.
That's right.
Is it also 10?
Which one? Oh, C.
Oh, yeah.
Just the and?
But
is
the
that
and
or?
isn't a horseshoe, so.
Is
I
that
don't know if
not
that-
10?
So we're asking, is this an example of Form 10? And Jake was thinking maybe yes, and I think Laura made a
Well,
good
no,
point.
I
You
was
say it
thinking
again?
Maybe no.
Well,
We're just
we
wondering.
were both confused about like
Yeah.
it's
Because it's
the
an and.
horseshoe isn't like a variable.
I don't think it is though.
That's right.
It's
So
just like,
to be an instance of Form 10, there would have to be a conditional right there. And in this one, there's a conjunction right there instead of a conditional. So this is not an instance of Form 10. What about Form 5?
No.
No, because there would have to be a negation in the consequent to be an instance of Form 5. Zach, what about Form 6? Is this an instance of Form 6?
No, because there's no, like the parentheses is one thing,
That's right.
and there's two.
The parentheses go around the whole conditional, so it's the whole conditional that's negated in Form 6. Could we add some parentheses to make this an instance of Form 6?
Yeah, if you put parentheses around the that there, and then again.
Yeah, if we did that, then we'd have an instance of Form 6. But since we don't have parentheses there,
We did.
not an instance of Form 6. I think that's probably all the ones we're going to get. So we already talked about number 10. Number 7,
Super messed up.
8, and 9 are also going to have two conditionals. And we only have one conditional in this state. So this is not going to be an instance of any of forms 7 through 10, again. Are these making sense so far?
Yes.
Not too bad now that we've talked through how to do them.
No.
Okay.
Just
Now, I got an idea. I want to have everyone work through one of the problems on your own. And just try to find all the forms.
I'm already doing number 4, so I claim number 4.
All right. Number 4, number 5, number 6,
Seven. Yeah.
number 7,
I'll do the rest.
number 8,
9 and whatever.
number 9.
What?
I can do all that.
Going
What do you number
home.
9?
So
A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
everyone is going to do one of the problems
Can I
on the
number
sheet.
Can I
So
do
1, 2, 3.
all of them?
Can I do number 5?
You can do all of them. I'm just going to call on you for
Can I do
for
number
one.
5?
Okay.
So Nick's on the one that starts with not A horseshoe B. You're on the one after that that's a conjunction of 2.
Yeah.
Does everyone know which one they're working on? I got confused.
Yes. I'm number 4.
6.
Can I,
Can I do 5?
Okay.
Can I do one that's next?
I have a
You
question.
can do whichever
about-
one you want, but I'm going to call on Zach for number 5.
Alright, what am I?
6, 7, 8, 9. So
That's this one.
that's this one.
This one? The H? The I.
It's I.
And
And you're on.
Just
so,
act
yeah,
the
so
whole
why is
thing
it an
out.
example of form 5?
Number 4 is an example of Form 5 because Form 5 has the as a conditional where if P, then not Q, and even though in number 4, the thing that comes before the consequent, the antecedent, is in parentheses and there's more than one variable, P can represent something complex.
Good. So this is P, and this is your Q.
Yes.
You've got a negated consequent. Good. And then you said there's an example of form 9. Good. I think that's the first example of form 9 we've got. Because we've got a conditional inside the antecedent of a big conditional, which is exactly what form 9 is. Nice. Zach, tell us about the next one.
2, 3, 7, 8, 9.
Zach says 2, 3, 7, 8,
Is he wrong?
9.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, why is this an example of form 2?
Because it's an example of form 2 and 3 because it has a conjunction in it.
So, but form 2 doesn't have a conjunction in it, and neither does form 3.
But it says and. Oh my god. That's so hard.
Entitled.
They're just so
Entitled.
easy to prove wrong. Just give it to them.
And you're
give
not?
it to them. Take away the shame.
No, not towards
So, Laura, why is it not an example of form 2?
because there's an and instead of a horseshoe. And
Good,
it
good. Yeah,
it
so
doesn't show
this
the
one-
entire-
There's nothing.
Even though there's a conditional here and a conditional here, the whole thing is a conjunction.
So there's
So
nothing.
it's not going to be an example
Of
of
anything.
None of them.
form 2 or 3.
Nothing. It's
None
exactly
of them work.
And actually, this isn't an example of any of these forms, because all of these are conditionals of some sort. And even though it's got conditionals in it, the main connective here is a conjunction. And none of these have conjunction.
How like you explained that and I learned something and it wasn't like rooted in my face like haha I got it wrong. Like I learned something. So, thanks Steve.
So, I mean, all of these are going to be ones where there's something sort of new and tricky in each problem.
What? There is no. For 7?
Well, there doesn't have to be.
Yeah, so this isn't actually, there's no correct answers to that one. Just leave that one blank. Okay. Right over here.
There's no 2 and 3.
For fun.
7? Yeah.
I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10.
Wait.
What number?
Wait, 7?
No,
No. How can it be 4? It can't be 4. It's gonna be
7.
4. Are you guys on 7?
Yeah.
Well, it can.
Okay, who had this one?
There's a parentheses.
It can be 4 and 5.
I think I did.
You did. Okay, great.
It can't.
Get it.
It can't be 6.
Lydia, tell us about
No, it's
which
not the
forms
entire
is this an
sentence.
instance of?
This is the entire phrase has to be like
Two.
this, it would have to be like this.
Just that one too.
We're talking about.
9.
You guys are talking about 7.
There's a not at the beginning.
Is that your form? Okay.
And here. This
Man,
existing
I can't hear
and
anything. So, Lydia said this is an instance of 2, 3, and 9. How do you know about 2 and 3?
Just,
No, I was just wondering because it's
Um,
I think
for 2 and 3, it says P with the horseshoe thing,
Yeah.
and like 9 and Q with the horse thing, the horseshoe in R. Then for that one, it has A and horseshoe B, maybe.
Good.
Is that why? it's
So,
kinda-
so both 2 and 3 are conditionals,
Yeah.
right? And these are both big conditionals. So there's your P and your Q and your R in those
Yeah.
forms, right? Yeah, so those are just big conditionals.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch going on in the antecedent of this conditional, but it's just a big conditional. Definitely forms 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And 9.
Okay. I'm just looking through to see if there's any other ones that maybe it was before.
9.
But I think
2 and 3.
all the ones
I realize that.
in, say, 4, 5, and 6 have to have a negation in them somewhere, right? And there's no negations. And 7 and 8 would have to have parentheses in the consequent, and no parentheses in the consequent, right? So none of those. Okay, tell me about 9. Why do you think this is an instance of form 9?
It looks more like it has the parentheses in the right place.
Mhm.
Has
Good.
well, not all the parentheses, like,
One of them
at
is-
least
this is one phrase.
it kind of looks similar to
Yeah.
that, and
Yes.
it kind of has, it just looks similar except
Good.
for like the ending.
Yeah, so we've got P, Q, and R in Form 9. Which one would you say is R?
Maybe the B.
The B, okay,
Yeah.
good. That's
And
exactly
then
right.
The P and Q, the A and B. Well, no, the A and B is the.
So how about let's do the Q first. Which one's the
Okay.
Q?
Would it be the B?
This B or this
yeah,
B?
Which one? That one.
This
yeah.
one?
Maybe, yeah.
You're right.
And
The reason is that this is the bigger conditional. This is the antecedent of this conditional.
And then the A and B will be the P.
So this whole thing is P,
Yeah.
right? That's your P.
So this is the
Good.
parentheses, right? This is one.
You're exactly right, 2, 3, and 9.
This is two
Um,
things. So one
And then again, 10 has a negation too, so it's not that one.
These are-
It's 2, 3, and 9.
Just P and Q. These are in parentheses.
Okay, did you have the next one, Maya?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, let me write it on the board.
And there's also going to be 7 and 8. Yes. Ew.
Are there like a bunch for 7? Or is it just 2 and 3?
2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10.
Why not 7 or 8?
Okay, I think I got that right.
What
All right, Maya, tell me about this one. Which forms does it fit?
4, 5, 9, 10.
Okay, so tell me about 2 and 3 together. Why does it fit those forms?
It can be.
It's a variable. The
Yeah.
variable consists of
Right. All that has to happen for it to be Form 2 or 3 is for the big connective to be a conditional, and it is. So as long you got to just check the main connective. As long as that's right there,
This
then
one,
it's
this
Forms
one.
2 and 3. Okay. How about 4?
There has to be this.
0. Because the first part of it is not
Oh, there is, my bad.
Right. Yeah. All that has to happen to be Form 4 is the antecedent has to be negated. So this tells us it's Form 4. What tells us it's Form 5?
that the consequence is
This negation. Perfect. Okay. And then, how did you know it's not Form 6? Perfect. Exactly.
How come not 7 or 8?
It can be 7.
You said which?
Yeah, it can.
You said
7
not.
and 8?
Yeah.
How come?
So is this an example of
7 and 8.
Form 7? Because we've got a conditional,
That
because
could be
statement of
the
the
entire
antecedent and a
variable.
conditional.
Yeah.
There's a problem with it fitting Form 7. Does anyone see the problem with this statement fitting Form
Oh, there's a
7?
conditional. Is there a conditional between?
Fitting Form 7.
It doesn't.
What number
Rather
is
than-
it?
Is there a problem with this fitting
Is that
Form 7? Yeah.
Could it
Yes.
possibly be because there's a instead of the not there's
There's
a
7.
the word shooting maybe.
So it has to do with one of the negations
Because
here.
there's,
I know it.
Oh,
there's a
okay.
third variable. It's since we're on the
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's not a regular variable. It's inside the major parenthesis. There's another parenthesis. So it's not, it can't just be P.
So the problem isn't that it's a third variable,
No, no, no.
because
I'm
actually
saying-
both variables could be the same
It
thing.
can be 9, but it can't be 7 or 8.
Why can't it be 7?
Because it's the opposite. Because there's a parenthesis inside of the variable. for-
So is there something, can you point to something in this sentence that tells you it can't be Form 7?
Yes.
Where is it?
Parenthesis in A and B.
The parentheses here?
Yes.
This set of parentheses tells you it can't be Form 7.
Yes.
I think that's not right.
It's because of the second negation.
This whole thing could be P. This whole thing could be P. So that's not the problem.
The second negation.
Well, can it be that the negation?
This is the problem.
But can't the negation like be part of?
Yeah, it can.
Negation.
Oh,
Not
right, that's because
after
it's in
or
the
therefore.
So if, say, if we had this, then we could have Form 7. Because Form
And you
7
say
says
a
the
number
consequent is a conditional, and this is a conditional, but if we switch the order of the negation in the left paren, this whole thing is not a conditional. That's a negated conditional. So this does not fit Form 7, actually. Same problem with Form 8, is just that this is a negated conditional and not a conditional like we need for Form 8. Too. Okay, you said it is an example of Form 9, right? How did you know that? Or what makes you think that? Because the first part, this part's a conditional, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about this? Does that cause us a problem? For being an example of Form 9.
No.
Yes.
4 says yes. Why?
Because it's outside the parentheses.
It is Form 9.
That's right. So to be an example of Form 9, the antecedent would have to be a conditional, and the antecedent of this sentence is a negated conditional. So it's actually the same problem with being an example of Form 7. This negation makes it not an example of Form 9.
Would that
so
be
the
the same problem
parentheses-
with Form 10 because there's no negation after the horseshoe?
No, because it can be.
So this one is an example of Form 10. What's P?
The first thing.
The whole thing inside these parentheses is P. And it's, oh, sorry,
No, no, no.
I'm wrong.
Is
No,
it
no.
A
It's not.
or A?
So then there's A is P,
So P is going to be A,
and then A and B is going to be.
and that's going to be Q,
And
and that's going to be R. So it is an example of Form 10. This is P, that's Q, and that's R. And that's really the ultimate test of whether it fits a form, is whether you can identify part of the sentence with the
Why
form.
can't it be 7? We went over this, but is it because of the not?
It's because of this negation.
But can it be? Oh, it's outside of it.
So,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, right. Okay.
so for the variables, anything outside of parentheses can't count for the variable. What it's-
I mean, yeah, so if we're looking for a conditional, then, you know, if I, anything that goes in the antecedent of the conditional can be P, right? So if I've got, you know, a super complicated, antecedent, all that can be P, right? That's all fine. Here's where we get problems, though, is if I put something out front,
Yeah.
then
It's not.
this is no longer my antecedent, now this is my antecedent.
And so if
So
it's not
this, so the form of my antecedent is changed if I put a negation in front. Yeah. All right, that was fun. We'll keep going on, I think, the rest of this sheet, and then 42 next time.
okay, thank you. I'm just like to do I do a scan of the board. So, for Hillel.
Why do you have a baby thing here with no baby?
Um,
Did she run away already?